Literally, debut. It's got to be when she plays Caitlin Clark. So they obviously ended up debuting at All-Star Weekend because Caitlin didn't play when they were in Chicago, and Caitlin didn't play, or Caitlin's not playing in this game, so they're debuting at All-Star Weekend. The plan was to literally go and use Caitlin Clark for the
Angel Reese stepped into the WNBA All-Star spotlight like a headliner expecting applause, only to discover the stage lights had dimmed and the crowd had vanished, armed with confidence, a flashy Reebok campaign, and her first signature shoe drop. She positioned herself as the centerpiece of All-Star Weekend. But the real centerpiece, Caitlin Clark, wasn't even in the building. What was supposed to be a defining moment for Reese became an awkward display of marketing misfire and miscalculation. Reese launched her Reebok I'm in Your City campaign in Indianapolis, which happens to be Caitlin Clark's home court. The campaign was loud, aggressive, and intentionally provocative. It came complete with social media videos titled "Walk in Your Trap, Take Over Your Trap," suggesting a symbolic torch snatching from Clark. Reese seemed to be embracing a villain narrative, casting herself as the one to dethrone the league's golden girl. But there was a fatal flaw in the plan. Clark wasn't playing. Clark suffered a groin injury just days before the event, the WNBA's biggest draw. The player, whose presence alone boosts ticket sales and television ratings, was sidelined, and with her absence, the hype around All-Star Weekend collapsed.
The shall never know piece. At least when it comes to the WNBA space, it was this ad that Angel put out, and I don't know if this is part of a larger campaign where it's going to be similar themes in similar places, but because of where the WNBA All-Star Game is, and because of who plays on the Indiana Fever in the home city of the WNBA All-Star Game, it's going to...
The 2025 WNBA All-Star Game was supposed to be Reese's moment to rise. She had the new signature shoes. The Angel Reese one ready in the colorways Diamond Dust and My Bounce. Reebok had coordinated the launch to align with All-Star Weekend for maximum impact. But instead of capitalizing on a massive spotlight, Reese found herself performing under a dimmed bulb. The numbers tell a sobering story. The 2024 All-Star Game, which featured Caitlin Clark, drew a record set.
Angel Me Bound Prayer Reese. You only relevant because you keep bringing up my precious CC. You want to pull up with your Billboard Reebok ad in Indiana talking about you in her trap. Man, stop it. You out of there. You hear me? My precious CC don't be in no trap. Real talk. You hear me? At the end of the day, she don't do those type of things. Yes. You hear me? Don't put that with her name at the end of the day. If you be in a trap, that's your business. You hear me? Whatever the case may be, that ain't none of it.
Getting 3.4 for million viewers in 2025. With Clark out, viewership plummeted to the 0.19 million, a 36% drop year over year. And this wasn't just any weekend. It took place in Indianapolis, Clark's WNBA home base, where anticipation had been sky high until her injury. Ticket prices also crashed. From a pre-injury high of $121, prices dropped to $64 almost overnight. The secondary market couldn't save them. Local businesses banking on Clark-related tourism were left disappointed. The league tried to spin the narrative, comparing 2025 viewership to 2023.
Very clear that one side is absolutely trying to milk whatever rivalry there is. Whatever rivalry there is, it is one side trying to do everything they can to keep it together, because that is where they're going to be at.
Is this really necessary? And shouldn't Angel Reese be able to market herself at this point without invoking or even, insinuating some sort of attachment to Caitlin Clark? Because if I'm being honest about it, people say that moment was huge. It will live forever. That moment will live forever. But Caitlin Clark was on this trajectory already. And if anyone has benefited more from the attachment, at least from an attention standpoint.
But fans weren't buying it. Everyone knew the truth. Without Clark, the All-Star magic was missing. Reese, however, refused to pivot. She doubled down on the campaign. Instagram posts, pop-up events, interviews all proceeded as though Clark were still the focal point. In one post, she captioned, "I'm in your city," as though she were staking claim to a kingdom without its queen. but too many fans. It came off as opportunistic. You can't challenge someone who isn't in the arena, and if you try, the attempt looks less like bravado and more like desperation. Attendance at her events was dismal. Reports from her Reebok pop-up noted
WNBA All-Star Game ratings have come out, and all I could think of right off the bat was 4 little letters. F-A-F-O. F around and find out. You bleep around and find out what this league looks like without Caitlin Clark being involved in your biggest events. Kathy Engelbert, this should be a perfect example of why you need to get your officiating cleaned up and you need to have a talk.
More photographers than fans. Social media users called it out bluntly. One wrote, "She can't even promote her own shoe without using Caitlin Clark." Another joked, "Did more people show up for the billboards than for the launch?" The entire strategy seemed built on proximity to Clark, not on Reese's own merits. Rather than establishing herself independently, she leaned into the optics of rivalry. But the problem is, rivalries required a willing participants, and Clark wasn't playing along. She wasn't responding in interviews. She wasn't throwing shade online. She wasn't engaging in podcast callouts. She was silent, and that silence was deafening. Even the comparison in head-to-head matchups fails to support the narrative. Reese fans often point to her LSU championship win over Clark's Iowa squad as proof of dominance. But what happened after that? In their next meeting, Clark sent Reese home in the Elite Eight. That image of Clark waving goodbye to Reese's coach? It lives rent-free in sports memory. And the missed opportunity was glaring. Reese had everything lined up. The spotlight was hers for the taking. She had a signature shoe, high-profile brand backing, and a platform most rookies only dream about. But by anchoring her big moment to someone else's absence, she let the air out of her own balloon. Reebok's campaign could have worked in Baton Rouge. It might have landed well in Chicago, where Reese plays professionally. But in Indianapolis, with Clark sidelined and fans still nursing disappointment, it landed flat. It felt like someone trying to win by default planting a flag in a backyard. While the owner was away on injury, even more frustrating for the league was the context around it all. The three-point contest and skills challenge still drew 1.3 million viewers, a 90% increase from the previous year. But again, this surge had less to do with who was there and more to do with the residual effects of Clark's presence all season long. Her impact lingers even when she's not on the court. The WNBA, for its part, tried to spin things positively, but it couldn't escape the fact that Clark's absence had exposed just how reliant the league had become on her star power. Reese's weekend misstep only emphasized that reality. You can't force a rivalry, you can't fake star power, and you can't win over fans by leaning too hard on a narrative that isn't mutual.